Pablo, today we're going to be talking about two movies that were actually filmed very close together. For the first, we're going to be talking about Rec, the original Spanish film from 2007, and the remake from 2008, Quarantine. And I know you like Jennifer Carpenter, or at least you mentioned that you like her from Dexter. So we're going to find out if she was the person for this remake.
Okay, Johnny, this one's got your number on it. Let's jam.
Welcome back to another Cinema Jam Versus. Today we're going to put two movies together and we will find out which one we will keep and the other one will go forever out of the planet. So the first candidate is the Rec movie from 2007 by the Spanish filmmakers Jaume Balaguero and Paco Plaza. And we're going to put it against the movie from 2008, actually very close together, Quarantine by John Eric Dodell. That is actually someone that we have discussed in the main episode because he made the movie
Poughkeepsie tapes
about the found footage. Well, not the found footage, the mockumentary. The Poughkeepsie tapes is a mockumentary. This is a found footage. And kind of annoying, to be honest, because when I think of a found footage, at least explain who the hell found the footage. In these two movies, there is no explanation. They just show you what is happening. And actually, that bothered me a little bit. That was one of the things we never discussed when we were watching the last Exorcism. Never explain how they found that footage and who's showing that footage to you. But okay, let's move on. It doesn't really matter. These are both found footage movies. Quarantine is a remake from Rec. So I think that's about it.
The only thing I want to ask you, Sebas, is how you found out about this movie. It's like, when did you first discover Rec? And if you ever saw before Quarantine?
I actually heard about Quarantine quite close together to Rec. Rec was just like, oh, it's a new... I mean, Spanish has made pretty good horror films in the past. So I actually follow a little bit of what they're making. And I do remember that when they released Rec, it was all over the place. I never watched it. I was never able to watch it. But it became a franchise. They have 4 movies right now, and I think the 5th one is coming. They changed a little bit of the mythos around it. So I actually watched it when we were doing the September tapes. I wanted to explore a little bit of different movies about it. And I knew Quarantine was a remake. I heard it was very faithful to the original, and it definitely is a very faithful remake of the original. So, okay, that's the reason I decided, okay, let's find an opportunity to talk about Rec. And I like Rec. I think the first one was quite enjoyable when I watched it in September. I think, no, it wasn't an official recommendation, but I like it. And Quarantine, I knew it was happened, but never really found time to watch it. What about you? When did you find about them?
I saw Rec first. I saw Quarantine like many years after, and I actually watched Quarantine because I was curious to see how Hollywood was remaking the Spanish version. But we can talk about how I feel about it later, although you saw my thumbs down before. But maybe just about the context when the movies came out, because we always talk, when we do this versus Sebas, we always also talk about, what was happening in pop culture at the time that the movies came out. And in this case, both Rec and Quarantine, they came out around the same time. So Rec came out first in 2007, and then Quarantine came out in 2008. I want to say that around those years, like in the mid 2000s, towards the end of the first decade of the 2000s, there was a bit of a revival of zombie movies. starting with obviously 24 days later.
28 days later.
Sorry, starting with 28th day later. Thank you.
Shaun of the Dead also was very
Shaun of the
close to
Dead,
those
that was a
time. Yeah.
huge hit. It was a crossover, with comedy and then the zombie horror. And also George Romero did Diary of the Dead. It was also in the same decade, so there was a bit of a movement coming up around those years to revive the genre that was stuck. That was kind of like that was stagnating since the late 80s. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, Sebas, about like the context. Anything else to add on that?
Well, actually, the other thing that actually this movie combines is the found footage. The 2000s, we talked about that when we were doing the
It's a very
September
good point.
tapes.
It's a very good point. Yep.
All the 2000s were about found footage
Found
movies
footage.
and
Ever
all
since
different things.
ever
So
ever
this
since the
was like
Blair
in the
Witch,
perfect
ever since the
storm.
Blair Witch. Yeah, ever since the Blair Witch in 1999, everything else that came after that was horror was all about found footage, exactly. And then it was mixed with that that wave to do more zombie movies from the
And this one
2000s.
was
Yeah.
pretty close to Paranormal Activity, right? Paranormal was around this time, if I remember correctly. So
2007. Yeah,
2007,
2007 from
yeah. So
Lawrence.
it was like all the big, everyone was investing. Oh, let's do found footage. Oh, zombies
Yes.
are back in that. So this is like quarantine is like, I'm gonna say it is a cash grab. It's obvious. And Hollywood, I think it's interesting to talk a little bit about that as well. That remakes of European, well, sorry, not European, international films are also in this the last part of the 2000s. We can see the Let Me In, the remake of Let the Right One We In, Ring You, or The Ring, or the remake of Ringo. So like all these, at the end of the 2000s, they were making a lot of remakes of international films. So this one also drops in that right moment. So like, yeah. But yeah, it was interesting. It was yeah, I actually find the movie, that remake, more interesting than I expected it for a few aspects, but I'm not going to deny it. We will talk
No.
that a little
What
bit
we're
at the
gonna
end.
do now, what we're gonna do now, Sebas, is we're gonna go through the process of putting the two movies to battle each
Versus
other. Exactly, we're gonna have 6
the
rounds
yeah,
for the people that are listening to the podcast. When we do this versus episodes, what we do is we pitch each movie against the other one, and we go about um saying who's the
different
one that
aspects.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, different aspects. So the first round is about the story and script of the movie, like which one does it better, which one has the least plot holes, and which one is more consistent. Then we talk about the characters and acting. Was there like a perfect casting of an actor or of an actress, or which movie had like someone that was like totally miscasted? Then third, we talk about visuals and direction. Who was the best director in the movie? Who was the one that brought the most interesting, style behind the movie? Soundtrack and vibe is number 4. Number 5 is quotability and any sort of like pop culture moments, things that are stuck in the popular zeitgeist, like what people talk about. And the number 6 is about rewatchability, like how much we feel we could actually watch the movie again over and over again, like if we were in a desert island or something. And we got also some wild card rounds that we can talk about later. But let's go through the first 6 rounds, Sebas. What do you think?
Let's start. So you already gave a little bit of a tip there, but what
So
well,
let's go.
the story. Yeah, let's go
Round
with
round one.
one.
Go, Sebas. Round one.
So what is the? Give me a second. I was away. Which one had the tighter plot? And I think this one will this one will be an interesting conversation, because there is one main thing that both movies do opposite, and I want to talk about
Yes.
it. So I'm gonna say it.
The
This is a spoiler-heavy
Go for it. Go for
podcast.
it.
I'm gonna go.
I think
Yeah.
I know where you're going, and I want to say Quarantine had the tighter plot, but I'm gonna wait for you to say it.
So Wreck, the zombie apocalypse, is based on religion. Is actually a demonic possession of kids and animals, so that spreads like a virus, but it's basically a demon. And in Quarantine is basically a cult is investigating like a rabies type of thing. So it spreads through
Outbreak.
animals and all that, but it's basically it spreads the same way, but it's basically a rabies virus. In certainly like a fast acting rabies virus that acts in minutes instead of weeks. So there is no way to basically cure it. So that's the main thing. So which one do you think is the
To be very honest with you, that was the thing in Quarantine that I thought the movie did better, because the concept of a virus being released by this extreme group, like this kind of like sect group,
like a
as we
cult?
learned,
Yeah.
like a cult. Thank you. That we learn about like towards the end of Quarantine. To me, it makes more sense than some sort of a demonic possession that becomes some sort of like a virus that manifests physically and people get contagious. I think from a consistency perspective, the way Quarantine wrapped up their story was stronger, was tighter than Wreck.
I'm gonna agree partially with you because one thing. So I agree. If everything was related to that, like the virus, I think actually makes more sense. Like this apocalyptic cult that they want to basically do, destroy the world type of 12 monkeys actually is interesting. Very
It's
12
actually very
monkey like, yeah.
It's very close to 12 Monkeys. Actually, that's a good point. Sorry
Yeah,
for
and actually
for
the second movie is actually in an airport, I think, or in a plane or something like that. So it's an interesting
yes.
connection to 12 Monkeys. I haven't seen it, but I read the summary. So, but the thing that bothered me, it was that the ending was also with the old lady. I mean, how's that lady surviving? It doesn't have any food, has been there for weeks or years. You don't know how many. Like the monster at the end, the living in the dark. That will, for me, it should have been already there. It was like, okay, if it's a demon, I will understand that the demon is sustaining it, the kid and the old lady. But in this one with the virus, there is no clear indication like the virus also keeps them alive. I don't know. That bothered me. But in the end, I think the virus aspect and the cult, the end of the world cult, makes more sense. So I'm gonna give it to Quarantine as well. But it did bother
Okay.
me a little bit that the ending was so close to the other one when there was no demonic possession, and it was like a demon living in the attic, basically. What they find. So that's the only thing that bothered me, to be honest. Yeah.
By the way, just for our listeners, something that I forgot to mention before we started the versus rounds. Actually, Sebas and I were keeping tabs of what movie gets what point in every round. I'm actually updating that, Sebas, in the Excel, sorry, the spreadsheet that we use in Google. So I just gave Quarantine 1 point. So we agreed that it won the story and script round. It doesn't mean that it's like an amazing, super solid story. There's still
Sorry,
quite a
no, both of
few
them
plot
are.
holes. But I mean, in essence, the concept of a cult stealing a virus that they release and then that going amok, like completely like going wrong, makes more sense than the demonic possession version from Spain. So that was round one. Now we're gonna move forward to round two: characters and acting, Sebas.
Okay, we're going to, in this case, we're going to ask who, no, actually, I'm going to ask who was miscast in both of these movies, related to all the actors or the main character. Which one do you think worked better, actually, from the two main characters?
Okay, so if you're asking me, I think when it comes to the leading lady in the movies.
Yeah, Manuela Velasco is the one in Rec, and
Yeah,
Jennifer
I think
Carpenter is in Quarantine.
I th- I think Manuela Velasco brings more innocence to the movie, like a bit more of a natural, I don't know,
Scareness, right?
exactly like behavior. She seems
Mm.
more natural. Jennifer Carpenter, we were talking about her just a moment ago. She's an amazing actress. I think she's great since she did Dexter and she also did The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And I think she has the ability to play this sort of roles in horror movies. But I think the role in this story needed someone like Manuela Velasco, which was a little more naive in a way. When you look at Jennifer Carpenter, especially they introduced at the beginning of the movie in Quarantine a lot of elements about the fireman trying to to hit on her, and
There, yeah.
those were not present in the Spanish version. That was not there. That was all added by the American remake. So that brought in some sort of a different perspective, a different type of persona to the leading actress that was not present in the Spanish one, which is more like like someone new trying to do this TV show, and it felt more natural, more fresh the way Manuela did her role in Rec than what Jennifer was trying to do in Quarantine. Although, Sebas, I gotta say, I liked what she did in Quarantine. I'm not saying that she was miscast, but if I have to compare both of them, I would say that it was the results were better coming from the
Manuela
Spanish
Velasquez, yeah.
Manuela Velasco, correct?
So I actually think that Manuela had better chemistry with the cameraman and the fire department and the police and the police officers than Jennifer, and especially in the last scene in the attic, Jennifer didn't. I didn't felt as. I think you used the right word, the innocence or this, that afraid that Manela was able to put up, and I think that's actually that's the plus. So I actually will give it to Rec in this case.
Okay, so we're just giving now in this round 1 point to Rec. So
Round 3.
visuals and direction, Sebas. So let me ask this one. So when we talk about visuals and direction, I think the first question that comes to mind is what movie aged better? Or if we can frame it in a different perspective, which one is still looking very cool? Like which movie of the two would you say is cooler than the other one or aged better than the other one?
Well, definitely Quarantine has better production, but the grunginess of the camera in Rec is type of the experience. So it's difficult.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
There's more rawness. Like it's more raw the experience when you watch Rec compared to Quarantine. I agree.
yeah, and in this found footage is just better. And that scene in the attic, for example, is an example. It looks perfect. It looks so fake. It was, yeah, I don't know. It just looked better when they were in the uh, infrared or night vision in
Yeah.
Rec. Yeah, it felt something, and it's original. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. They didn't have enough to the new one to make it like, okay, this is better direction. Well, they did that. The scene in the elevator is the only thing that I realized. Like,
Which is
that's a
very
very
good.
good scene. Yeah,
It's a very good scene. Yeah. So
yeah. I will
for
almost
the
tire it because of that.
so for the listeners that haven't seen the movie, a bit of a spoiler alert. One of the tenants in the building in Quarantine, this drunk lawyer that is like really like annoying. He tries to go back to his apartment, and at that moment, when the elevator opens, this dog that is infected with the rabies virus goes in and kills the lawyer off screen. Like we don't see that happening, but it's nasty. Like the whole sequence, and then when they had to go inside the elevator to go to
They
another floor,
show it. Oh my god.
they showed it's a pretty nasty yeah.
Eaten by the dog. It was impressive. And then the last jump scare in that scene as well in the elevator was pretty well done.
So, but
They
I mean,
added 10 minutes. I'm going to say something like they added 10 minutes
yeah.
from one movie to the other. And basically, is the elevator action is the only thing that they added.
True. I just wanted to say that I mean, like, Quarantine is basically like a shot by shot, like a shot per shot, like remake of Rec, basically.
Yes,
Except for this like small like differences that was mentioned, like the elevator scene. So there are like some key moments in the movie. I mean, from a horror movie perspective, one of the key moments is when the fireman is dropped from the high floor, like one of the high floors into like the ground floor, which is an unexpected moment in both movies. To be honest, Sebas, I think Quarantine did it better than Rec. That one. Also, another key moment is when the daughter,
little girl.
the sick girl attacks the mom. Also think Quarantine did it better. 'Cause I actually had to stop both scenes. I actually had to switch in Tubi
I
to
did the
watch the
same.
movies because I wanted to see like which one felt like scarier, and Quarantine did better. There's
And
more,
also the attack
yeah.
of the little girl attacking the policeman. I also rewatched that, and it was also like it felt. I mean, it was too obvious, but it was better surprise. It was better handled in the. I don't get. And there is a thing. Quarantine has better production. You can tell that they put more money on the zombies or whatever they call the infected. However you want to watch.
Infected. Yeah, let's call them
Yeah,
infected.
the fireman with the broken leg walking. It was
It's a nice touch.
so
It's a
well
nice touch.
done.
Yeah, that was a nice
Yeah.
touch.
So yeah, you know what? Let's do a tie. I
Okay,
think both
can we
of
do a
them
tie?
have their own merits, and I'm not going to deny it that.
You know
Yeah,
what?
Quarantine has
Let's do that.
enough good elements just to be above. Yeah, this is the first time. This is the second time we're doing this, so we're still figuring out the rules, guys. So be a little bit patient with us.
If we actually end up with a tie overall, we're gonna go back to this part of this round 3, and see if we can revisit that.
Okay, I
But
agree completely. Yeah.
let's move on. Round 4, soundtrack
Round
and
4.
vibe.
Okay, with vibe, you know what? Quarantine. I think, yeah, there is just, yeah, I
Quarantine or
don't know.
Rec?
Just the production, I think you can tell that is a little bit better.
Quarantine.
Quarantine, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm not really, I mean,
So one thing that is pretty interesting is that both movies don't have a soundtrack. There's no score. There's no movie score. There's no incidental music anywhere besides the sounds of what's going on in the movie. So from a soundtrack perspective, there's nothing in there. In terms of vibe, like the feeling of the movie, I want to give the point to Rexos because there's something about it that, I mean, well, we're just like saying
well,
before.
maybe related with the
It's
camera, right? It's more
the
raw.
camera. The
Yeah,
camera
it
work
feels
is
more in the
more
moment.
raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's more truthful to, I guess, what Lars von Trier was doing in the 2000s that started the whole movement. This comes from that that's called cinema verite or something like real
Yeah.
type of filmmaking. I think it's closer to that concept. Quarantine is too well polished to be a found footage movie. Rec, I can believe it as a found footage movie.
Let's give it to Rec. I agree. Yeah, you convinced me.
Let's give it to Rec.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Quotability. Okay, round 5.
Round 5.
Quotability and okay. There is any moment that you will say that you will quote of these movies, of one of these movies?
Well, the Spanish one, like
With the woman being dragged, or
no, the quote that we use in the podcast,
oh
like
yeah,
Pablo, grábalo todo, grábalo. I mean, for those
Por tu
of
puta
us
madre.
who exactly for those of us who speak Spanish, it's one of those memorable quotes. I don't think I got anything from quarantine that I can
They
say.
tried to do the same phrase at the end, and it just didn't sound the same. They
Okay.
did try to replicate it, but it didn't work well. It's not the same. There was such a it felt real when when Manuela say it. The name of the character is Angela. If anyone wants to know.
In both movies, there
Yeah.
the reporter's name Angela. So
Yeah,
so
in the quarantine they give it a last name, but I think in the first one they only say Angela.
so do we just fall back
Rec,
in our Spanish bias and say that Rec had more
Rec. That's right.
quotability? Okay, let's give the point.
And it's just I don't know. These pictures that I chose basically are the ones that represent the movie. And look at the hairy Manuela. It's just so real. I love the way she looks and the way she acts. Okay, rewatchability. Watching quarantine is basically rewatching Rec, so I don't know how to measure this one. Sorry, this is round 6.
Round 6. So now, actually, if you would have 2 hours to watch a movie and you're like desperate to watch a movie and they only give you these 2 movies, which one will you choose, Sebas, to watch?
I will choose Rec. It's actually 10 minutes shorter, so I actually prefer that. And it tells the same story, so I will go with Rec.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything like necessarily like amazing in like in quarantine that would actually,
Make it
make it
worth
make it
different.
worthwhile. Exactly.
Yeah.
Choosing that one over Rec. So let's go with Rec. I agree.
And it's not that bad. I mean, Quarantine is a good remake. It's very faithful to the original one. People that don't understand, I mean, they don't like subtitles. Maybe that's fine, but still, I prefer the I mean, the original one. I really like it. So
It's very
I
tough.
think,
It's very tough, and it's very tough to find a remake that is better than the original. I think that's something that we need to explore in this podcast. But when
mm,
it comes to Rec and Quarantine, I think we both agree that Rec holds its ground better than Quarantine. Now, let's move on to the fun rounds. Because normally this is for our listeners. After we do our first 6 rounds, we have this bonus or wildcard rounds where we actually, ask other questions about, just to know what movie actually makes the cut and becomes like the winner of this battle. So, Sebas, I'm gonna ask you from your perspective, what is the WTF moment, the what the F moment that stood out in each movie? Like, what movie actually had the biggest WTF moment, basically?
well, I'm not the dog in the elevator. I think it
Yeah.
was especially because I wasn't expecting,
Yes.
and the 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 the, the fireman falling down is also very well done. But I'm
It's
not going
well
to
done,
deny
Quarantine. Yeah.
the dog in the elevator is just push it to the edge with that one.
Okay.
And
So
then you being able to see what happened to the face. Oh my god! Wow.
though I want to say that the creature at the end, like the monster that we see in the attic in Rec, I've always felt that it was scarier than in Quarantine.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't know.
it was
I saw
actually
that
it was like a thinner person. It felt
it was
like
a
someone
thinner.
that
Exactly.
been living there for many like months or
It
years,
actually felt closer to something that would be, possessed by
like
a
a demon.
demon.
Yeah,
Exactly. Even though we just discussed that from a plot perspective that didn't make a lot of sense, but it felt more consistent, like from a visual perspective, than what we saw as someone infected by rabies in Quarantine. So from
and
that
also the
point of
kid in the
view,
attic. It was better in the wreck than the kid in the attic in the quarantine as well.
I actually want to say that in both cases, it sucked.
Well, yeah,
I always felt that they shouldn't have shown that. Like we didn't need to see their face. They always look like this. What's the name of this movie with like killer babies? Oh gosh, I'll remember that later. But there's like it didn't feel that realistic, Sebas.
mm,
I would say that I wouldn't look so much at the baby that was in the attic, but more like the monster.
yeah,
And yeah,
the old
because
lady
that's
or whatever it is.
that is,
Yeah,
that is meant to be like the highlight of the movie, like the ending, like the moment that you see this entity. And Rec did it better than Quarantine, but
definitely. Yeah,
but Quarantine added the dog scene in the elevator and did way better the fireman, and also like falling from the high ground, and also the fireman walking with its broken leg.
yeah,
I want to I still want to give the point to Quarantine.
yeah. I think this one quarantine in the end
Perfect.
added enough what if what the fuck moments, what if moments there.
Okay,
Uh,
so now let's move on to the next Wildcard. This is the plot hole Olympics. So, which movie collapses if you think about it too hard? This is an easy
both
one.
of them, to be honest, both
Oh,
of
come on.
them. Yeah.
There's one that collapses faster than
Okay,
the other one.
Rec. You mean the
Yes.
Catholic Church, whatever
I
they were
mean,
supposed to be doing? Yeah. Well, he's trying to figure out if the demon is transmitted like a
uh,
virus, and he was,
I didn't
yeah, it
understand.
was
Like,
so weird. Yeah,
the first,
is the
the
demon
first time,
possessing the virus? I don't understand that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't even know if Paco Plaza and Jaume, like the guys, the directors, even knew what they were like talking about when they mixed like viruses and religion. So I don't know. Quarantine seemed a bit more straightforward. It was a virus, stolen from a lab, and like a doomsday type of virus. So the point goes to Quarantine, I think.
And they were researching about it, and that's it. Okay.
So
I think that's about it. Which we can go to the final verdict, I think.
so if we go by our points system, Sebas, we have 5 points for Rec and 4 for Quarantine.
Thanks to the wild cards. If we didn't put the wild cards, basically, Rec would have won
Yeah,
already. Yeah,
by a landslide. So yeah, no,
yeah.
I think it got closer because of the wild cards, of the WTF and the like what the heck plot holes that were so obvious in Rec. But no, Rec is a great movie. I think
Yeah.
it deserves to win, and it's the original one. And it is again very difficult to find a remake that is better than the original. Honestly,
Mm. Yeah, in the future we can try to explore more remakes. I think we will give it another try with another horror remake soon. So we will talk about it later.
awesome. Okay, good. So this is it. This is our versus episode of the week. We just talked
So
about
will
Rec and
the final
Quarantine.
verdict is
I think we are going to keep Rec in the history vault of
and
filmmaking,
destroy
and if we have the chance, we'll destroy Quarantine. That's the final verdict.
every version of the final verdict. Okay. Okay, thank you everyone. Please subscribe. Hey, please share the podcast, subscribe. We are very happy to make these versus. These are mini jams versus. And I think there's something interesting happening here, and we would like the community to participate and suggest new versus. These type of ideas can be very entertaining. So we hope to get you on board on Facebook and YouTube. Pablo, do you wanna propose one versus for next week, or
You can propose that, Sebas.
this week I was listening to a podcast and it reminded me of a movie that I really like, and it's been a while since I watched it, and I wanted to see what is your reaction. It's very different to what we have discussed in this podcast or in the main podcast. So let's find out. So the two movies we're gonna we're gonna put against each other is Warrior from Gavin O'Connor, or Gavin O'Connor. is the main characters are played by Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy when they were basically becoming famous before they were really famous. So it's gonna be an interesting watch, and we're gonna put it against Red Belt, the 2008 movie by David Mamet, the famous screenwriter, playwright, and director. So let's hope everyone like it. That's my versus for next week.
Okay, sounds good.
And prepare one for next week, Pablo.
I'll prepare one for next week. I'll do that.
So until next time, keep jamming about movies.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.